Somewhere between winter's last breath and spring's first true warmth lies a fragile awakening. This week the land stirs under cold, misty mornings, and the calendulas blaze gold against the blue skies. All the bees return, and we sow the seeds of hope. This week we're planting lavender and pumpkins, and also mourning trees lost to the hungry mouths of wild kangaroos. Paul keeps building the shed, putting the great doors into place, and I tuck a dahlia tuber beneath the soil. Mushrooms are growing in our kitchen, and our corn is starting to come up. The rosellas are fluttering through the orchard, and our quince leaves shimmer in their first flush. We venture into town for spring fair, and we return with quite a few plants and new wisdom. This is a season of contrasts, of setbacks and seedlings, and holding your breath until the frost lifts, wondering what will bloom and what will die. So let me take you on a walk with us through the rawness, the beauty, the rebuilding, as this third week of spring unfolds on our off-grid life here on the land. We've got a tiny little celery coming up there, and our garlic all through there as well. I think because the calendula came up so prolifically in this garden bed, I think the garlic has been a little choked up. But the silver beet, the celery, there's fennel and garlic and calendula in this bed. This orange tree has had heaps of new growth after I gave it some fertilizer a couple of weeks ago, and I've also added some linaria plants down the bottom as well as a bit of parsley. The chickens are laying up to 9 or 10 eggs a day at the moment, which is fantastic. And in this new circular bed I've planted or transplanted some cornflowers and also some bergamot. The transplanted seedlings are a little bit sunburnt, but hopefully they will recover. And in this bed we've got kale and red shallots and garlic and some carrot and some calendula, and I think actually even some of those chili or capsicum might come back to life after the winter because we had frost cloth over them. Got some coriander there, some parsley, some Chinese red spinach, and our rhubarb is coming through quite well at the moment now, regrowing from its crowns that we planted in there almost a year ago probably. And then we've got beetroot as well. We've got a few different weeds in there between all the rhubarb popping up. Calendula, we've got daikon radish flowering, and we'll hopefully get those seeds soon as they dry. And then we've got some beetroot in there. These are all the daikon radish flowers. Hopefully they will develop some seed pods soon so that we'll be able to collect the seeds. The only problem is it's grown through this wire mesh on the table, which we had there to support the frost cloth, which didn't really work very well anyway. But I'm a bit scared to remove the table in case it rips out the whole daikon radish plant. Sugar snap peas are up, and so is some of the black radish. That choko vine died, but I got 3 out of the 4 chokos that I planted that survived. Some Detroit red beetroot coming up there, and also a volunteer potato plant. And that's one of the choko vines that survived. I kept them alive by keeping them under some old glass shower doors and windows, so that stopped the wind and things from getting to them. And the chocolate mint is doing fantastic, but I've got some more bergamot here, lemon mint and chocolate mint, and some more bergamot lemon mint in here as well. So they've just been transplanted. Hopefully they'll make it through. And we've got our fruit trees that are all leafing up now, which look amazing. They've got buds everywhere, all over them. Hopefully we'll get some fruit this year. You never know. And then all this purple vetch is climbing all over the screens that we have protecting the nectarine tree, but the nectarine tree is doing well under there. Now front garden of flowers and grevillea. Then when we went into town to the spring fair, we attended some workshops and I learned about how to plant dahlias and different types of dahlias and all that sort of thing. And so I bought a tuber from these guys who are award-winning dahlia growers. So I'll be planting my first dahlia tuber. And on our way back home, we had a couple of kangaroos hanging around the entrance to our place. And we just sat and watched them for a while. I'm not sure what kind of kangaroos these are. Maybe someone can tell me. I think they may be wallaroos, but they have really long and thick fur, and it's not something that you generally see on kangaroos in Australia because it's quite warm in most areas. But I think because in our areas, especially with those winter misty mornings, the local kangaroos maybe develop thicker coats to adapt to the cold, which would explain their fluffy appearance. It's very brown. The rosellas come in the afternoons and they usually come back in spring in pairs and they're beautiful. They normally come and lay their eggs in one of our post holes, and then after they've had their babies, they go away until next spring. The next morning, the air is cool, carrying winter's hush, a bit reluctant to depart, and the mist coils low over the paddocks, like ghost hands stretching among trees. And some mornings still bear that cold breath. Each inhalation seems to hold pause between seasons. And here at the edge of spring's third week, the land exhales. It loosens its winter cloak and life begins to shift. Paul was at work on his new shed. The shed just stands like a skeleton at the moment. The doors will swing outwards and he's levelling the base with precision. And tomorrow, the footings will be set in wet cement. While Paul is working on his shed, I return to the garden. I'm sowing some lavender seeds today. I bought 500 lavender seeds because I've always had a dream of having a property that just had heaps of lavender, like seas or fields of purple everywhere. So apparently lavenders take a really long time to germinate, and also I read after I'd planted the seeds that they need cold stratification as well. So I'm just hoping that the cold in our area naturally would have been cold enough for them to go through that stratification process. So fingers crossed the lavender will come up in about a month. A friend of ours, Daryl, sold us this shed for a very cheap price, so we're very lucky and very grateful to be able to get this shed up.
Not quite high enough for that to lock in underneath, but it's pretty good. I'll check the levels on both of those sides. But then this whole front has to be lifted up.
So I'm planting some golden nugget pumpkins too. Golden nugget pumpkins are not really my favourite, but I know that a lot of people like them because they don't take up a lot of space. I think it's like 1 metre square that they spread to, and they have small pumpkins. But since I had these seeds, I thought that I'd just give them a go. I'm putting 2 seeds into each cell, just in case one doesn't germinate. I am using a good quality seed raising mix for sowing these seeds as well. We're almost at the stage where we could use our own compost that we've made to make our own quality seed raising mix, but we're not quite there yet, but not far away. I'm also going to sow some Napoli paste tomato seeds. These tomatoes are meant to be really good for making like tomato paste or tomato sauces for pastas and things like that. So hopefully they will go well. These type of tomatoes are like a type of Roma tomato, I think, and they're determinate or semi-determinate. But I always used to get confused about what does determinate and indeterminate mean. So determinate tomatoes are like the bush type workhorses, and they usually only grow to a fixed size, usually about 3 to 4 feet tall, and then they stop and they're like a compact bush. But the indeterminate tomatoes are like vining wild spirits, and they will just keep growing and vining until frost or disease stops them, basically. These vining types tend to need the strong staking and trellising or cages. They sprawl otherwise. The indeterminate types of tomatoes are great for just picking throughout the summer, like just wandering through the garden with a basket. I think I put 2 or 3 seeds in each little cell just in case one of the seeds didn't germinate. So we've got a heap of pearl mushrooms growing in our kitchen at the moment from a mushroom kit that we got, and they're pearl oyster mushrooms, and we've been cutting them up and using them in our breakfast each morning. So that's been handy. So these are the treasures that we got at the Horticultural Society's spring fair in town. We've got some Spraxis bulbs that have those beautiful flowers. So Spraxis are a genus of bulbous, or more precisely cormous plants in the iris family, native to South Africa. So we also got an Australian native raspberry, and so it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. And we also got the pink dahlia from the award-winning people that grow them. And then we got some yacon, which is the Peruvian ground apple. And we're going to firstly put the dahlia in the ground. So here goes my first dahlia tuber planting. I have no idea what I'm doing. So he said to dig a hole and make sure you add some compost or some potting mix that's nice and soft and got lots of nutrients, and so it's highly fertile soil. And then he said that you need to plant the tuber about a fist deep, and you need to plant the tuber sideways. So he did say that you want the eyes pointing up, but I have no idea what the eyes look like or how to identify them. But I did end up planting the tuber sideways, and he did say that you don't need to water them. So I hope that's the case, and we'll see how we go with our first dahlia tuber.
That's pretty good soil.
Yeah, but I'm going to put some compost in there. And I can
put the other soil out too far and drag it back.
But I can use it to plant other flowers in around the edges. See?
Put it on its side.
it in.
Yeah, use the shovel.
I need it. Needs some more soil.
Too light below either, like give it a little bit of compaction.
How do you know where the eye is?
That growth that's
That's not an eye, he said that's the neck.
That's the net, yeah, that's
There'll
where he
be an
cuts it
eye
off.
there somewhere, but he didn't tell you how to find out what the eye is.
Isn't that bit at the end growing?
I don't know. That's okay, he said just sideways is good. A dahlia tuber isn't a seed, it's a living root. It's a thick, knobbly thing holding onto the memory of last season's growth. So he also said to put a bit of mulch on top.
You're a hot dog, are you? You're a hot puppy. You're in the sun, why don't you come up here?
I think you have better luck if you put them in a pot maybe and let them sprout before setting them out in the ground. Anyway, hopefully our dahlia tuber will come up. We've also spread some dahlia seeds throughout the other garden beds, so from Lana, our permaculture teacher, so hopefully they will come up too.
So, with the angle on them, the concrete will go in and the concrete will hold them in. And then all I've got to do afterwards is tighten them up further onto the concrete and then cut the top of the threaded bolt off, threaded rod. And those angles hold it in the concrete.
The quince trees are leafing out and looking beautiful, but grief lingers. The 27 young saplings that we planted just a week ago, we had nurtured them for a year before we transplanted them out, have been absolutely ravaged by the kangaroos. So it was so disappointing to come back a couple of days after we planted them out to find that their slender trunks had their leaves basically just torn off them and they're basically down to sticks. Just sticks poking out of the earth. So we need to put some cages around these trees to try to get them to come back to life, and I'm watering them anyway, and though my hope is sort of fading, I'm still going to try to save them. So Lana has told me that I need to soak the sunflower seeds for 12 hours, then rinse twice daily until they're sprouting before I transplant the seeds out into the garden. So that's what I'm going to try. So Paul and I made another trellis in the back, and we're going to add it to the back of one of the new garden beds that we've created because I've got some scarlet runner beans to plant. So basically we just shoved those two long posts in between all the fencing and just added a bit of reinforcement to them, and Paul's got some wire that he's using to basically twist up and to connect the trellis to the posts. So hopefully that will work for us. Look at these beautiful black and purple gems concealed in pods. I almost didn't want to sow them. The beauty, that they were so beautiful. I can't reach the back of the garden bed, so I'm just using a poker stick, a long rod repurposed from an old marquee pole, and I'm poking the holes in first, and then I'll try to drop the bean seeds into the hole as closely as I can, and then I'll use the poker to gently cover them with soil as well. So I've also sown some carrots and calendula and corn in this garden bed at the front as well. So I'm excited to see how this garden bed is going to grow over the next few weeks. Now I'll make a little sign for them. So in another bed I'm going to plant these bush beans, these strike beans, which are the small white seeds. And I'm basically using the same method of using my poker and popping the seeds into the hole and using the poker to cover them up again. So I'm going to plant these beans from basically the parsley to the choko vine all the way across this bed at the back there. Even though we've tried to do a bit of mowing and whippersnippering to make the garden look a bit tidy, it still looks quite messy. And it's got cardboard down for potential new garden beds, old shower doors and things lying around, improvised protection. It's not neat, but from all this, life threads upwards. It is strange. We've been here for 4 years now, and I feel like the garden's only just coming into its own. The rhythms are more evident, the wounds more visible, and the triumphs more delicate. So I think we're closer now to that food forest that we've been whispering about and plotted down on paper and they were drawn into our dreams. I remember how bad the first couple of years of gardening here was. The earth was so hard, the weeds were rampant, our bodies were aching, the seeds were failing, the frost killed everything, but we learned to listen to the wind, the soil, the skies, and we learned to fail, and we rose again over and over. The corn is starting to rise, just tiny, thin green shoots, probably about 20 of them. And up in the hills above us, the wild goats have returned, silhouetted into the morning haze. They move like ghosts, grazing, watching, fading into the tree line. We don't have much, and some nights we fall asleep with the sound of the wind moving through the shed walls and the cold creeping in at the corners. We're still camping really, and we live close to the bone, paycheck to paycheck. Some weeks it's tight, real tight. But out here beneath the sky, growing our own food with our own hands, there's a richness that no money could replace. So this is our life in the margins, off-grid, slow, rooted, not perfect, often ragged, but always hopeful. We build soil, we build habitat, we build a home for roots and wings.